aware of any tonight. And then under fiscal stability, we've got the consent agenda. Board members, you would have received that information in your packet. If there's anything you have questions on or feel the need to discuss, now would be the time. Otherwise, I seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. This is Melissa.
Second. This is Jeff.
Motion made by Melissa Curtis, seconded by Jeff Hagley. All those in favor by roll call. Jamie?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
And Jennifer, aye. Motion passes 6-0. On to the collaborative connections with Mr. Olson.
Right. We not only have some gifts from our community, but even our greater community in the first donation coming in from Shields and St. Cloud, $500 for our Monticello fishing team. Gas and construction and maintenance, also bringing $500 to the district for our Monticello fishing team. And Chris Boehm, $500 for our Monticello fishing team. So just a great show of support for the second year program. And like I said, not only from our community, but the greater community as well. So thank you to all those wonderful sponsors.
Thank you, Eric. It's so great to see the continued support from our community. Does somebody have that resolution handy?
I do. Therefore, be it resolved by the Monticello School Board, District 882, to gratefully accept the following donations. Shields of St. Cloud, $500. Gas on Construction and Maintenance, LLC, $500. And Chris Boehm, $500, all going to the Monticello fishing team.
Second. This is Melissa.
Resolution read by Candace, seconded by Melissa. All those in favor by roll call. Kathy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Jennifer, aye. Resolution passes 6-0. Now to our innovation and leadership section of the agenda, and we start with our district recognition for school health professionals.
Yeah, I'm gonna in a second make three very important special people stand up, and I'd like our communications director to take a picture of them. But Monica Schwickerath, Tana Kalmbach, and Kelly Barrow are our district school nurses, and they have absolutely kept us in business this year. And so in these bags, we have a couple little treats for you. The first one is Lifesavers. Because without you, this year our students, our families, and our staff, we'd be lost without you. Navigating all the different rules from MDH this year and being able to turn on a dime and try to do the very best to keep everybody safe and keep that knowledge going and in that positivity when people might feel down. You did it. You'll also find some Monticello gear in here, some clothing. And I think, I think about our activities department when I think of Monticello Magic and how hard it has been to not only keep the school going, but to keep our activities going and to be those right-hand support people for our administration to stand up at meetings and to share messages and truly not only share messages, but to listen and be empathetic to help some people get over the hurdle or any fears they might have. And then last but not least, in these bags, you'll also find a coffee mug and a little treat, because I don't know how you've been able to work the hours that you have. You take care of people on the weekends, you take care of people in the evenings, and even though our HR director tries to tell you not to do it, we know that you just take care of people. So I know she's watching online, and we're all so proud to have the knowledge that we have, the dedication and the passion from you three people. I don't know where we'd be as a district without you three. So we all thank you. This is a time for our school board to recognize heroes And so I'll let that be said and see if anybody else wants to chime in. But we don't forget, I won't let that picture go to waste tonight.
Thank you.
Right on. Anyone else on about a magic hour? Okay, 3, 2, 1. I don't know why I was smiling. You can't see her.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for
Guys,
everything.
yes.
And continue to do it. It certainly isn't over, so thank you for everything that you're doing.
Appreciate that.
So
Thank
proud of you. Thank you so much.
And we commend our healthcare too, who are not here today, because we couldn't stay afloat without them too. Thank you guys.
This has been a challenging year, and you guys, thank you. I mean, from the bottom of our hearts for sticking through it and putting in the long hours. It hasn't gone unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you to our health professionals. We really appreciate your work. Now on to the budget revisions with Tina Burkholder.
Let's see if this works. There we go. It works. All right, so tonight I'm asking for approval on the final budget revisions for the 2020-21 school year. Uh-oh. Yeah. I think you have to start it. I shouldn't mess with it. All right. So here are all our funds listed, and I'm not gonna go, we didn't revise all the funds that we maintain. We did a majority of them, but there's some that we didn't do. For example, the hockey arena, our debt service, or internal service that houses our dental self-insurance plan. All right, there we go. So we'll start off with the general fund, and in this presentation, I divide out our general fund as the state sees our general fund. They lump together the Monticello Fund and our special ed cooperative, where the special ed cooperative purchases employees from the Monticello who are under our contracts, and then buy back that service to Monticello. So I'm going to dive a little deeper and keep those two funds separated. All right. So with our general fund on the revenue side, our enrollment did decline based on what we expected. When we first took a look at our budget adoption, we did shave off 50 WADMs, weighted average daily membership, which isn't necessarily students, because not all students are weighted the same. Grades 7 through 12, they're weighted 20% higher. So depending on where the kids fell, it depends on that weight, but we shaved off 50 to start with. But as the year kind of progressed and we opened up and saw who showed up, we had 143 fewer weighted average daily membership kids come in. So that affected our local property tax levy, because that's based on formulas, as well as the state sources, our general education aid and other revenues that are tied to enrollment. So you'll see the decreases there. And on the federal side, we saw over 2.3 million come to us this year through federal CARES dollars. And the CRF is Corona Relief Funds. And then we received federal funds from the county, and we received federal funds from the Big Lake Township. So we were very fortunate where we had that 2.3 million to help us out.
buy additional staff or hire additional staff, if you will, to have those hybrid classes at the elementary sites and some at the secondary sites. To have those lower class sizes help us out with distant learning. A lot of help to get us through this year. And then other, we had some revenue improvements there based on insurance claim that happened at Pinewood with our secondary heat panel from 1968, 69, somewhere in there, that just short-circuited and went out. But fortunately, it was during December when we didn't have kids in the building, so we were able to fix that. And then we also saw most recently a nice rebate from Xcel Energy on our solar subscription. So we'll be able to do some nice improvements with that money. So overall, our general fund revenue budget increased $1.4 million, and a similar, well, actually a larger increase on the expenditure side. So as you can see here, we added the additional staff based on those care dollars. So that was salaries and benefits. But I've noticed we did use some of our CARES money for subs through the 60-day subs, so more of our sub budget went there, but we're starting to use that now to finish out the year, and less custodian overtime because we haven't been renting out our buildings as much as we've had in the past. And we had a nice winter. Other things such as purchase services, supplies, capital outlay, we've seen lower utility bills, so that has helped us out. But our technology departments received their carryover from last year. Our buildings received their supply carryover from last year. But then we use that CARES money also for things such as the cold plasma improvements to our HVAC system and a lot of devices to get us one-to-one for the kindergarten through grades 5. So our general fund expenditure budget increased $2.2 million.
Tina, can I just stop you for a second? For the devices for the CARES dollars, that included the internet access for some of those kids too, or is that out of a
Yep, that
different pot?
includes the hotspots as well.
Okay.
Yes. And probably a lot of additional phones as well too, like the nature base as well.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Yep, good question. So to summarize, we didn't quite have a balanced budget. We started the year with that, but our expenditures are exceeding our revenues by $465,000, dropping our beginning fund balance from $7.6 million to $7.1 million. And that fund balance is made up of a lot of different categories. There are some that are restricted or reserved as determined by the state. They come with strings attached, so we can't use them for anything and everything. So we'll have some reserves set aside for staff development because there's not a lot of conferences and things for people to go to. Operating capital will have a reserve, long-term facility maintenance, third-party billing, safe schools. We had some one-time money last year that we received that we haven't been able to do some improvements to make sure we can get cell service in some of our buildings. And so hopefully next year we'll get those projects wrapped up. Student activities, the ones that are under board control or that are in our general fund or Fund 11, as you might notice in my comments on what are some of the bills being paid for, those have to be reserved. And then we have committed for severance, which we're spending down year after year as more people retire. And then the assigned fund balance that we designate as admin in the school board, the building carryover, and the scoreboard activity. So that leaves us to an unassigned fund balance, about $3.4 million or 7%. We ended up last year at 8%, mainly because we shut down and we recognized a lot of savings with utilities. So we are ending up the year better than I thought at 7%. So that's good moving forward. Any questions on the general fund? All right. So next, the general fund with the co-op budget. Just a little bit of tweaks there. For federal sources, it was revised down a little bit based on updated salary or staffing projections with the co-op. So on the expense side, just adjusting the benefits down to where we think they're going to be. But basically, this is a in and out budget where the revenues should balance the expenditures. They're buying the staff and turning around, giving us the money for that staff. So it's kind of money in, money out. No fund balance there. Any questions on the co-op?
Hey, Tina, can I stop you just 1 second? I forgot it and I wrote it down. The rebate funds that we got that one-time money for,
Yep.
is that earmarked for something in particular? Do we have to use it for something in particular?
We do not have to use it for something in particular.
Okay,
Normally, when we get rebates from Excel, they have to go back to the project.
okay.
Because I saw the check come in, I'm like, I don't see a project listed to earmark it back to, but this was just based on that solar subscription that we have.
And that's something we can, that's potential that we could have again, or is that a one-time kind of a rebate?
I didn't ask that question, but I'm hopeful that it would be an annual thing, but I'm not going to count on it when I develop the budget.
Sure, thank you.
All right, next we have our food service fund. So initially, when this budget was put together in June, we made it under the assumption that we would operate under the National School Lunch Program. Well, the Friday before Labor changed our budget where money was going to come from the parents or the state and the federal on all those reimbursement rates, where it strictly came from federal sources. But we do have some money coming in from families because we just started opening up our a la carte items for students to buy at the secondary level, and snacks at Eastview, or just parents paying back some delinquent balances from the previous year. And then on the expense side, this is based on a meal projection. So it was based on, when I looked again, based on a little bit fewer meals. And also we've noticed a huge increase in our breakfast numbers and a large decrease in lunch. So our breakfast program is saving the day. We're serving kids in the classrooms. We're having them come in, pick it up, eat in their lunch classroom. So it's helping out that food program. So when we look into next year, if we think we're going to operate under the National School Lunch Program, we kind of have to decide how is this budget going to structure. How many meals do we think we're going to serve, and kind of balance that out with our projected labor force in our food service program.
Is that across all of the schools, or is it, all?
Yeah, Eastview is about the same because kindergartners have always ate in the classroom, and it's free to all kindergartners, so they're kind of the same. But every other building, we've seen a large increase in our breakfast meals and a large decrease in our lunch meals.
I think that's just due to the hours that we're at right now, that, a lot of kids are, we're getting out relatively early compared to the lunch, or is it just?
It could be that, or just with COVID and not being able to maybe get all the things we could in a normal year, we're only offering limited number of meal choices at the secondary levels, where they're probably used to every day a pizza line, like a hamburger line or a chicken sandwich line, and then the main choice line, and so it could be due to choices.
But did the choices change for breakfast? Because, why would they be increased for breakfast if?
Well, like I said, they can grab a breakfast to go and eat in the classroom. And when we've done like the weekend meals or the hybrid meals, like we gave kids a breakfast and a lunch for the next day, or the next day and the weekend, depending on what day of the week we were in. So we kind of helped those numbers by making sure they got them. And with the distant learning, they get breakfast and lunch, in their pick.
Regardless, okay.
They don't just get to pick, I just need lunch.
Do we know if the decrease in lunches is because kids are electing to bring their lunch more often?
I don't know that. No. Good questions. And then, so how does that look as a food service summary? Hopefully, we're going to end the year on a positive note by adding to our fund balance at $35,000 increasing the fund balance from 143,000 to 178. We have a lot of commodity food inventory where we're trying to use that up versus purchasing especially anything that's outside of what we normally purchase. So we're trying to use what we have, make sure things don't go bad.
Do you have any major purchases that might be coming up soon for food service?
Yes, we are working on getting, I don't know if it's called a kettlebell or steamer at Pinewood. So we're still working on getting that purchased and installed. We just need the custodian help to make sure we're ordering the correct thing. We have a garbage disposal to fix, I believe it's at Eastview, and there was something else at the middle school. So there are some major repairs and equipment that we're trying to get completed before the year's over, because we'll have another round of items to improve the following year. So you want to keep up on that equipment replacement schedule.
Did they have a lot of spoilage in items, or was it, I mean, was it?
A couple years ago, we had a lot of commodities that expired, like chicken, diced chicken.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that shouldn't happen with a good food service manager or contractor. So just making sure that they are aware of what we have and working with the cooks to make sure our menus are balanced between having something that kids like and using what we have as well to maintain our cost in that program.
When is this food service contract up?
Next year is our 5th and final year. So in January, we'll have to do requests for proposals to open up to another 5 years. All right, same with the food service fund. We adopted the community service fund as we would think it's business as usual, but it wasn't. So we have less programming that are showing up in revenues under other sources. And so that's under preschool registration, that's under Magic Adventures or our child care, and also our general like youth program, community ed programs, where we have a decrease in programs and revenue coming in. And then on the expenditure side, it's the related services to that, so less staff or purchase staff on the preschool, Magic Adventures, and the community ed programs. But in summary, that budget looks to be balanced, so hopefully we won't have to do a transfer at the end of the year. Hopefully it's all sustaining itself, so that fund balance is increasing, projected to increase 45,000 to end the total fund balance of 388,000. So again, just like the general fund that has different components through adult basic ed, school readiness, general community ed, and early childhood family education. And our building construction fund is finally winding down. So we just have a little bit of interest money coming in and some rebates that were tied to a project, our Pinewood HVAC project. So we have that money coming in and just the final projects closing out, which could be our Pinewood HVAC project, our roofing or asphalt projects. Like I've mentioned before, it's just harder to know how to budget these projects because they tend to happen over the summer, and June is normally in one fiscal year and July and August is in another fiscal year. So that's kind of how the budget's working out, where we just have a little bit of revenue coming in and a 2.2, almost 2.3 million of expenses coming out, which includes a final transfer from this fund to the debt service fund, about 900,000. So that'll be a board, I'll come back to the board for a final resolution or approval once that amount is determined to close out that project and give it back to the debt service fund, which will reduce our property tax levy over 3 years, because we'll ask to have it kind of phased down a little bit so people don't see big swings in their property taxes.
It's a good thing, that's what we like to hear.
I know. And then our final fund for review tonight is our other post-employment benefit trust fund. So this has our contributions to the trust coming in interest revenue, but it's not necessarily 1.1 million money coming in. We have to recognize all the retirees, whether the district pays for it or the trust pays for it. So it's accounting principle that we have to recognize. So that was just updated a little bit to include all the retirees that were known and having the final insurance rate that was changed in October 1. And then just a similar change on the expenditures to include the retirees and then pay all the HRA amounts based on the employment contracts.
Are the rates on that changed every year?
Yep, our plan year is October 1, so every year is that's when our insurance rates change. And so that trust started the year at almost 1.7 million, and you can see the true cost of what we're spending on in the trust are the non-certified employee contracts where we pay for retiree health, so like our non-certified, and then the HRA contributions that we have with some certified and administrative contracts. So that overall trust will probably dip down to 1.4, 1.5 million. So the last two slides are just summaries under the revenue and expenditures. So basically, again, just asking for approval on the final budget revisions for the 2020-21 school year.
Thank you, Tina. You always do a really nice job of going over everything.
Thank you. Any final questions?
Any views on the legislature?
I know final bills were kind of being thrown together, I want to say last week. So I haven't dove into them. I know the House was at 2% for 2 years. The governor, with his initial proposal, was 1% and 2.5% for the following year. The Senate had 2 big goose eggs for the biennium. So it'll be a battle at the end for sure to figure out what they're going to give to education.
I'm sure they'll do it quickly and we'll know. So.
There's a lot of conspiracies out there on who's doing what, their strategies, so it's all interesting to hear.
I make a motion to accept Tina's budget revisions as presented.
Second, this is Candy.
Motion made by Jeff, seconded by Candy. All those in favor by roll call. Jamie?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Candy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
And Jennifer, aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Now we've got the 2021 school board meetings and subcommittee meeting dates with Clay Swatsky.
Good evening. Just kind of a scheduling formality here to get dates on the calendar for the rest of the year for our regular and special board meetings, continuing on the pattern of the first Monday of the month, with the exception of September, with Labor Day falling on the first Monday of the month. That won't be the 13th. And then the only other thing of note, as we talked about in subcommittee meetings, will be taking the June 21st and July 26th meetings off the calendar after looking at our policy schedule and talking with the business office. Both of those meetings just were deemed unnecessary, with board meetings and subcommittee meetings already happening in each of those months. So just bringing the rest of the 2021 calendar to you guys tonight for approval. Any questions?
Just a clarifying comment. The November 5th, that's for the purpose of canvassing election results, correct?
Correct, and we'll set a time for that as we get closer to that meeting. But yep, that will be just for canvassing the November 2nd election results.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I make a motion to accept the upcoming meeting dates.
Candy, second.
Motion made by Jeff, seconded by Candy. All those in favor by roll call. Kathy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Candy?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
And Jennifer, aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
And now we move to our safe and healthy culture part of our agenda and start with our COVID-19 update, Mr. Olson.
Yeah, I thought it was important to highlight what happened from 2 weeks ago to last week. We, as you all know, we did have a consultation meeting with MDH and our regional COVID support team. And through that meeting, they made some recommendations. And the first recommendation was to watch the data, and if we were going to stay on a trend that was near or on those numbers that we had, which was 16 students who had COVID that week, that we had some recommendations to follow through with. In this particular week, we saw a decline of 50%, and that I think is good news and deserves to be highlighted. So we'll continue to watch these numbers and continue to bring forth any recommendations that we need to do. But at this time, I feel like the course that we're on, it looks like it, even though we have some things going on in the community where there's some spikes. Are you hearing that in the state? Are you hearing that there are pockets of communities that are on the rise? I think it's important to use multiple sets of data and not only look at the community, but also look at what's going on in your school, look at the trends, and the COVID team also agrees with continuing to do that. So our school nurses do receive information weekly. Sometimes it ends up being even more than that weekly phone call. But and then the members like Barb Wilson and myself, we're on several different types of communication meetings with MDH and MDE. So we're well versed at what's going on in our area and throughout the state, and can make any recommended changes should we need to. But today is really about recognizing that we did drop with our student body by 50%. I think that's a good thing.
It's a really good thing.
Eric, you have a question. I'm aware that there are some schools that are starting to run vaccination clinics for their 16 and 17-year-olds. Is that anything that has been in the works here? Is that something that we'd be interested in pursuing?
Yeah, we did. We did receive an email today. I know I have not had time to respond to it, and actually Clay just told me about it, and have not had time to really look into what that is. I know they know that we as a community, Monticello School District, are willing to host an event. I did ask if we could do that, so I know they are hosting their first event on Wednesday in our county. So we will just look to see how to next partner with the Wright County Public Health to see if our school could get chosen for one of those events soon. We have communicated at least twice now for our families to contact their local providers, because it does appear that our population from 16 to 18 are welcome on lists across the area. And so we are seeing some of our students become vaccinated that wish to.
Thank you, Eric, for the update. If there's no other questions on that, we've got our second reading of policies.
Yeah, tonight we have policies coming forward in second reading. So these policies have all went to our policy subcommittee. They've all, which is comprised of 3 board members. They've also to the full board and for first reading, and now we are bringing them back for second reading. Policy 720, which is a retention of records schedule. Policy 801, equal access to families of secondary schools. Policy 901, community education, and policy 902, use of school district facilities and equipment. So all of these policies are ready to bring forth unless there are any final questions.
Motion made to accept policies 720, 801, 901, 902 as presented.
Seconded, this is Kathy.
Motion made by Candy, seconded by Kathy to accept the policies as presented. All those in favor by roll call. Kathy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Candy?
Aye.
Jeff? Jamie?
Aye.
Jennifer? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting if someone wants to make that motion.
So moved. This is Melissa.
Second, Candy.
Motion made by Melissa, seconded by Candy. All those in favor by roll call. Jamie?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Candy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
And Jennifer, aye. Motion passes 6-0. This meeting is adjourned at 6:40. We'll take a 5-minute break and then come back for the work session.
Shouldn't be on meeting if